Welcome to Peter and Ruffy's Football Show here on STV2. The main talking points on tonight's programme. John Daly wants the Hearts job. Pedro Caixinha says he has the best squad in the Premiership. Brendan Rodgers hails Celtic's performance and looks forward to Friday's playoff draw. Yeah, just a few of the talking points. Alan Ruff and myself, Peter Martin, will be discussing. I'm delighted to say our boot-room guest tonight is former Dundee assistant Gerry McCabe. And like so many others, if I list Gerry's clubs over, 43 years, there's no time to talk about football in any capacity, Ruffy. But it's a strange one, Gerry. Just before we come on here, you mentioned, is it the first time in 43 years you haven't been involved in pre-season?
Yeah, 43 years. As a player, as a coach, my spell at Dumbarton as a manager, 43 years. I've not been involved in a pre-season.
Yeah, I imagine there's a real sense of frustration at that, but you'll be itching to get back in.
Yeah, of course. Obviously, I'm going to take the time out just to reflect on things, but hopefully I've still got the same desire as I had years ago to try and get back in. But you know the nature of this game, it's you've got to play the patience game. And we've got to wait and see what comes up. You know, all clubs have got their managers in place at the moment, but I say I'm just going to bide my time the same as everyone else.
Yeah, well, we're going to talk about one of the jobs that's available very shortly, which is, of course, Hearts, which Paul Hartley, the manager at Dundee, along with yourself, has been linked with. We'll hear from John Daly shortly. We'll also hear from Anthony Stokes, Pedro Caixinha, in the show tonight. But first, let's have a look at the back page headlines that greeted you this morning. James and the Giant Peach refers to James Forrest's wonder strike that sealed a victory for Celtic in Trondheim against Rosenborg. There's also Barcelona going for Philip Coutinho and Eden Hazard is a story, and there's again just a sidebar there talking about John Daly in the Jambos dugout for the opening match against Celtic. And would you believe it, could they have the two same sub-editors on each paper? I mean, what are the odds in James and the Giant Peach on two tabloids? But let's not dwell on that. I think the emphasis is on the strike from James Forrest. Up there, it's £520,000 a week for Neymar if he completes that move to Paris Saint-Germain. And there's Sean Maloney could be quitting football, niggling injuries, and maybe that's ruled out his move to Aberdeen. Could be a coach at Celtic. And there, on the back page of the Daily Mail, again, Neymar smashing the transfer world record fee of £200 million if it goes through, or 196, as you can see at the top bar. And James Forrest's picture, again, celebrating that wonder strike for Celtic. So lots to talk about on the programme. Ruffy, in the end, it was a 1-0 win. Could have been more, but what did you make of Celtic last night?
Yeah, I think they looked very comfortable. I think they've now got the hang of playing the European style of football, particularly away from home. That comes with experience of being in Europe. The players know exactly what they're doing. It's a very nervous way to play. You know, you're right on the border. You know, obviously you need things to go your way. They had hit the side of the post a couple of times, but Celtic looked as if they were in control. And obviously when they got the goal, it made things a lot more easier. But it was a fantastic strike. It was one of these strikes that win European ties. You know, if you get a chance to see the highlights of most of the European games, it's always something special, and somebody comes up with something, and that certainly was something special.
The game itself, Gerry, there was a 10 minutes shaky spell, but I thought Celtic deserved it over the two legs because the game played out in a similar pattern. I mean, if anything, Rosenborg will probably look back at the first leg and the two glaring opportunities that they missed.
Yes, I liked the vibes that was coming from Celtic anyway before they went over there. The consolation was Celtic that they didn't concede an away goal at Parkhead. And I was listening to Bruni and Scott Sinclair, and the way they were talking, they had a game plan. They were going over there, they were confident they were going to get a result. And I think that's the difference now with Brendan coming in, what he's instilled in these players. They've got a self-belief, and they believe that every game they get in, they go into, they're going to win the game. And to go over there, as Ruffy was saying, you know, it was still on the knife edge, the tie, but they went over there, took the game to Rosenborg, and what a marvellous finish with young James Forrest.
Yeah, absolutely. And the manager, as you would imagine, very happy with the performance.
It was a big performance. I think take away the win. What was important for me was to see the maturity and are we developing as a team and a squad. I think this time last year I was going into these games with a hope that we could get through and try and find a way. Now we go into them and, you know, to come out to here and play to that level with that composure, and, you know, everyone was talking about the pressure of the game, but to play that way was sensational, really. So, yeah, I'm really delighted with the players, how they managed the game, how they kept their nerve and courage to play, and yeah, it was a great victory for us.
His team selection caused a little bit of a stir at the start, Ruffy. Was Griffiths going to start, or would he come off the bench? I thought he was going to start. He opted for James Forrest, which I thought was an unusual choice. In the end, you know, social media is a great thing, Ruffy, when you're watching a game, because the amount of people are saying, get Forrest off, and then all of a sudden he comes up with just a magical touch in these things. Up there on your own in European football is a hard shift.
Yeah, I think anybody we've had in the show, from Kenny Miller, who have all played that role. You know, it's a thankless role. You know, you're running, you know, both channels. You know, you're getting frustrated. Some people can handle it, some people can't. But that's what Brendan Rodgers has done. He's got the players to buy into anything he says, and he's done it again. You know, tactically. Since he's went there, I don't think he's put a foot wrong. You know, and even he's brave enough to change the team. He's brave enough to throw the boy McGregor in. Never threw him in the first game, but he saw something in that game that could hurt them, so he just threw him in. Change of team selection. Again, centre-half getting injured, Beaton just slots into centre-half. And that's the way things are going just now. Everything is running very well, but I think there are better teams ahead. You know, I think if we look at Rosenborg, you know, they're not the greatest side. We know they weren't the Rosenborg of old, but yeah, they will have to up their game.
Yeah, of course, James Forrest did indeed get the goal, and just typical of the manager, glowing in his praise of the player, but also a little critical.
Should have scored another one. I said to him, you can score another one, but his pressing to get the ball back, and I think he played the role really, really well. You know, he plays it differently to what would be a standard number 9, but you wouldn't have looked in that game and thought you're not playing without a striker. You know, there was still lots of good offensive moments centrally for us, and but yeah, he goes into his natural position, and that was our idea going into the game.
Okay, he got a bit of praise there. I'll tell you, I thought my star man was someone who does something that's alien to you and me, Gerry, in a game of football. Scott Sinclair. If he wasn't on the ball, he was back chasing it. Yeah. I mean, he was fantastic.
Yeah, well, that's the type of player he is. His work rate is tremendous. And I think he said it himself, since he's came to Parkhead, he's got a new lease of life, really enjoying his football, and I think you can see that. I mean, you know what you're going to get with him going forward, you know, the kind of attacking player he is, but he's always got that other side of him as well, really going back and help the defenders. And when you look at the players, at the legs that Celtic have within their squad, he knows what he had to bring in into Celtic, and it's not just Scott Sinclair. When you look at Armstrong, you've even got McGregor and that, and everyone in their work rate is tremendous. Yeah. And as it says, they'll go and create, but they do the other side as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, they're in the draw, much to the delight of the manager.
Yeah, I think when the draw comes, it's going to be one of those anxious moments again, I'm sure, at some point over the 2 legs. But like I say, 12 months on, it's a different mentality, it's a different feel. The squad, they're happy, of course, they got through, but like I said before the game, you know, I now expect. So, and that comes from the belief of how they've worked and how they play. So, whoever we get, it will be a tough game. But my focus now is on Hearts.
Okay, Ruffy, just briefly, I'm going to show you who they could possibly get in the draw tomorrow. Who would you like to avoid if you were looking at all these teams? They've played a few of them before.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think you'd want to stay away from the ones that you played recently. They've already played Slavia Prague pre-season. I think somebody like that, they'll know exactly what the players present are like.
Okay, we'll find out with the draw. Tomorrow, Celtic are in it for the playoff for the chance to get into the group stages of the Champions League. After the break, we are going to hear from Anthony Stokes and John Daly about that Hearts job. Welcome back to Peter and Ruffy's football show here on STV2. Our little quiz question causing a bit of a problem for you two. A perplexed look on Gerry's face, and you're just not committing yourself, Ruffy, this early on because you can't remember 2 years ago.
No, I'm trying to shut my eyes thinking, did James Forrest score the goal that took them through? No. So you can scrub out Karagandhi, Shakhtar Karagandhi. So there goes that answer. So it's not that, but we'll give you the answer at the end of part 4. Gerry McCabe is our bookroom guest. We switch to a club that you never know what could come in the next few weeks. I'm talking, of course, about Hearts and their search for a manager. John Daly's going to take interim charge. He'll be there for the game against Celtic in Glasgow. Celtic will unfurl the championship flag. The Celtic captain, Scott Brown, has the honour of doing that. And then Hearts have to try and, over 90 minutes, make sure they're not just making up the numbers, Gerry, after a very difficult week for the Tynecastle club.
Yes, it certainly has been. And obviously that's the last thing they wanted to get in, the preparation for the first game of the season, going to Parkhead and losing their manager. But obviously they trust in John. I've met John a few times when he's been involved with the under-20s, and obviously he's going to take his chance and get in there along with Liam Fox, and I think it's Austin McPhee, the three that's been left in charge. But they know they're getting in there. They know it's going to be difficult at the best of times. So I wouldn't say there's going to be a lot of pressure on John, knowing the task that's ahead of him. But this is an opportunity for him. He's saying he wants the job, so if he gets a result at Parkhead, it could go a long way. And the board's thinking who they're going to bring in as their next manager. Yeah,
it's a strange thing, football. It's got to be the only industry where suddenly 2 results or 3 results strung together, can elevate a person into the box seat in a job.
Well, I think, unfortunately for John, I think there will be a future for him later on. Obviously, he's learning his trade, what he's doing. But I think, unfortunately, with Cathro experience, I think they might look for a wee bit more experience. I listened to, I think it was Jim Jeffries was saying that it's a massive club. It's a massive club for a young person to go in there, somebody who's not had any managerial experience. I mean, Gerry's been there at the top. Because it is different, you've got different decisions to make. It's different. You've got to deal with everything, not just the playing side or the coaching. There's other things that get thrown your way, and I think, unfortunately, with Cathro not being successful, for another young manager, a young guy to go in there, I think they'd have big thoughts about that. And I think the support as well, Hearts being as big as what they are, will want some kind of name, whether it's somebody that's been associated with the club. Maybe that's the way to go down. We'll just have to wait and see.
Your partner, Paul Hartley at Dundee, has been heavily named in the list of possible successors to Cathro. Is it a job that having spoken to him, that he'd be interested in?
Well, I think Paul would certainly be interested. He's a big favourite with the Hearts fans. He's a big player for Hearts, very popular. But as Ruffy said there, they might go down the more experienced road. They took a gamble with Ian Cathro. I've only met Ian a couple of times, I found him okay as a guy. I didn't really know him as a coach. I heard a lot of good things that, decent coach. But it's the other side of it, the experience management side, to how to handle players, how to deal with players, have that, when things aren't going right, how to go in there and get the best out of the players. Certainly Paul, I'm sure in the boardroom his name would have been mentioned, along with Peter Houston, I hear, has been mentioned, and a few others. But certainly, Paul, he's had the experience. Obviously, he's had 3 promotions, 2 with Ala, 1 with Dundee, and for me, he done a marvellous job at Dundee. So I don't think that, if they came calling that Paul would turn it down. I'm certainly sure he'd be very interested in that one.
Yeah, no surprise John Daly's in the box seat right now in the interim role, and he's hoping there's a long-term role.
for me, it's an opportunity to get more experience at first team level, because, you know, if you're asking me, is it what I want to do? Of course I want to be a first team manager. That's my ambition, just to go and manage at first team level.
Are you ready now for this job?
Well, I don't see why not. I feel ready to do it. But as I said, I'm just really happy to be at the club, regardless of where it's at. So no, I'll enjoy the experience for however long it lasts.
Yep, he'll be one name obviously mentioned in the back pages tomorrow. So will Fabrizio Ravanelli. He's been linked with the job as well, because I think he's actually applied for it, Ruffy.
Yeah, I'm sure there'll be a lot of people on the phone. You know, I mean, every time we hear that there's a manager up for grabs at any of the clubs, I mean, I think even Hamilton had like 40 people phoning for the job. So, I mean, Hearts is a job that foreign coaches will want. You know, it just depends on which route Anne Budge and Craig Levein want to go down. You know, and they've already taken their supporters into account. I'm sure that they'll we want to be on the right side of what the supporters want, what kind of manager they want.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned Craig Levein. Here's John Daly's take on his role as director of football.
If Craig had any influence on the team and he picked the team, he would surely pick the team himself and he'd give himself the job. So, for me, as a younger coach, I think it's invaluable having someone like Craig at the club. It really is. I think, you know, the knowledge, the experience he has in the game, that for me, since I've come in, he's always been a sounding board. That if I have any issues, or I have any problems, or I have any questions regarding certain things or certain tactics or whatever, I think that might help, or any things that he might be able to give me that I think are good ideas, then I'd be silly not to talk to him.
I've heard it mentioned over the last couple of days, in some context, in a condescending manner, that maybe in Britain, maybe in Scotland, we just don't get or understand that role of a director of football.
I think it depends on the person that's in charge. You know, it's what you want to buy into. I mean, Gerry would probably be better telling us first hand, working with Paul. I'm sure on a Friday they sit down and have a chat, you know, about who's been doing well in training and what Gerry thinks should be in the team, what Paul thinks is in the team. But at the end of the day, the manager makes that decision. But if Gerry gives Paul something that he might just twig and say, well, you're right, Gerry, you know, and take it on board, I think that's a sign of a good manager. But it depends on how much input he's got. You know, is he picking the team for Saturday? Who's picking the team?
Well, who cares, as long as they're winning?
Exactly.
I don't have a problem with the Craig Levein issue here. Where I have a problem with anyone above management is when you get a situation like, for example, Paul Lambert at Wolves, where basically he's told this is an agent that this club's going to use, and they will decide on the players coming in. Now, I think that totally and utterly takes away any power of a manager trying to run a club his way and bring the players that he wants in.
Yeah, well, first of all, you know, for an agent, and if you're not involved in the recruitment of the players, things don't go right, you're the first one to get it. You're the first one that's out the door. Whereas if you have a say in the recruitment of the players, well, you're going to take responsibility. It's more or less your team, you're picking the team, you've picked those players. But if that doesn't happen and you're sort of on the receiving end of bad results through someone else recruiting the players, I don't think it's right. And I know, well, a lot of managers take the jobs to get themselves back in there, and hopefully, you know, they get that option running the football side of it. But when it goes in there and things go wrong, again, as a manager, he has to go.
Yeah, I mean, the one thing that the previous manager had to put up with was, of course, something that every manager has to put up with, which is players who might want away. And this is a problem which, again, John Daly's going to have to deal with. And I'm talking, of course, about Jamie Walker. There's been an offer made by Rangers. It wasn't good enough, first and second offer on it. And John Daly just feels as if all this speculation around Rangers has really put Jamie Walker off for the start of the season. So he's not involved.
Jamie, I had a chat with him yesterday. Look, it's obviously it's complicated with Jamie. He's obviously, well, it's not really complicated, to be honest. It's an issue where a club have made an offer for him. It's kind of turned his head a bit. He's mentally not in the right place. And the conversation I had with him yesterday was that for myself, for Foxy, for Austin, for the players, for the squad, for the team, for the fans, we need everybody on board at the minute, and everyone in the right place mentally, and everyone pulling in the same direction. And Jamie at the minute, he's a little bit off where he needs to be, fitness wise, in terms of mentality wise. So the conversation I had with him was that we'll leave him out this weekend.
Okay, do you cut your losses with a player who doesn't want to play for the club?
I think there's a difference between doesn't want to play for the club and can't get his head around, you know, what's happening. I mean, I had it a couple of times myself. It's a difficult one where you really want to move and it doesn't happen for you. They will have to say to him, look, this is it, you're not going anywhere. You have to get your head in order. We think you're a very good player. The fans love you to bits. Just go out and do what you're good at, and then you've got to get on with it, you know. But if Rangers are continually putting in bids, then obviously the boys' heads are a wee bit messed up. So it's up to the boy, it's up to the individual, you know, to get your act together, because what you want to be doing is playing football, not just sitting in the house.
Yeah, absolutely. That one will probably carry on over the course of the transfer window. OK, we'll see if these two guys can get any further forward with our quiz question. After the break, we'll have Anthony Stokes and Pedro Caixinha on the show. Yeah, you would not believe how difficult it's been in the break now, having to give these two guys about 35 extra clues to get them close to this, but they're still no nearer it. I know most of you have got the answer, you know, after clue one.
At least we know it begins with an M.
Yeah. yeah, absolutely. You narrowed it, you just can't get the name of the team. Anyway, let's switch our attention from Hearts just before the break to the other team across the city in green and white, Hibs. It all looks rosy in the garden, and Anthony Stokes delighted to sign on yet again.
Yeah, well, listen, Lenny's a big part of it. You know, he knows me inside out, and I was saying there before, I've probably played my most consistent and some of my best football under him. So for me, I want to try and get my career back on track. You know, I've had a year there last year where I barely kicked the ball, and you know, a lot of things going on in the background, and that's all behind me now. So I'm just looking forward to getting back to my football and back enjoying it, and hopefully being successful with it.
Yeah, there's an interesting one. Neil Lennon played a key role in influencing his decision to come back again, because he has kind of just drifted and not really found himself in a settled place since Celtic.
Yeah, I think he, as a player, like lots of players, need a certain manager to put an arm around him. And I think he's found one in Neil Lennon. Sometimes when you get a player whose head's up in the clouds, they need somebody that they can speak to, somebody can put them on the right track, and I certainly think he's one. I think we all know what he can do. We've all seen it with Celtic, the spectacular goals, the quick feet he's got. You know, he's sometimes half a yard sharp than everybody else. But again, it seems to be things in the background that are taking the focus off of what he's doing, and I think Neil Lennon will be the one to put him on the straight and narrow and get the best out of him.
Are you suggesting Anthony Stokes is one of those players whose head's up in the clouds?
No, I think he's the kind of player that needs to be told how good he is and what the assets he is to the club, and how entertaining he is. The fans will love him, and I think that's what he needs. Gerry, there are players out there who need to be loved. They need to be sort of told how good they are and told their worth and everything, and that's when you get the best out of them.
Well, let's find out, Ruffy, if Gerry was one of those players. Gerry, with all the skill you had and the ability, did you need a manager to say, Gerry, you're really good?
No.
No,
not really. I'm telling a lie there.
You've probably been with players.
Oh, I've been with players, yeah. I played with players, and it's a confidence thing with some of them, you know. I don't think I lack that. I certainly lack confidence. I've been told off a few times, you know, to get my act together, you know, in the party times. But I think, Ruffy's saying, for me, Stokes is a bit of a maverick player, and I think he needs a home now. I think he needs a home where he's got to settle. He's been I met him last year when we were in Austria with Dundee in the pre-season. He was over with Owen Coyle's Blackburn at the time, and I thought maybe we're talking to Coyle about him, and he was excited about having him down there. No, he's going to be a big player for them. It never happened. He's home here, he's back here now, and I think if anyone can get the best out of him, it'll be Lenny. But the thing, he scored a few goals. I know his last spell with Hibs, you know, well, obviously the cup final, he was a standout in the cup final. I think Lenny will be looking for him to be more consistent, not just in the goal scoring front, but his performances week in, week out. And maybe now this is him, he's come back here and he's settled into a place where he feels loved now. He feels that this is where his career is going to be for the next foreseeable future.
Yeah.
So, as I say, but Lenny's probably knows him better than anyone.
Yeah, I think you make a good point, Gerry, and I think this is the key to it all, Ruffy. He needs a home. He needs a club that, again, the fans love him, and then he needs a manager who can put his arm around him, but he also needs to settle down and consistently just get into scoring goals again and not be worried about where his next club's coming from. Is he going to stay at Celtic? Will he go? All the off-field nonsense that's dogged his Celtic career. He needs to make sure all of that is swept aside and kept at bay.
Yeah, and that's what happens. I mean, Gerry said a maverick player. I mean, there are a lot of them about, you know, and that's what you've got to do. You've got to treat them differently, but not to be seen to be treating them differently. But you have to do some special things with them. You have to make them believe that they are the player that they are. And I think at Hibs, you know, will be sell-out crowds now. Stadium will be full. The atmosphere will be great, and you would expect somebody like him to respond to that kind of atmosphere. You know, just do the special things that you can do, and you'll get the adulation that's going about. And certainly, when you're playing in front of a full crowd, it must give him a fantastic feeling that that's where he wants to be, and that's when you'll get the benefit of him.
Yeah, when I said there are some players that need an arm around them, are there particular players that you can remember that were really, really special that needed someone to look at the smile on your face, Ruffy? It's priceless. You've already got a name.
I mean, no, I've got one name, but I'm not going to mention it. But there was one particular guy at Partick Thistle who got a hard time off the manager.
Yeah.
And not only did he need reassured that he was a very good player, but Gerry will tell you, sometimes when you go to a club, a manager picks on one player. I don't know why.
Yeah.
That particular player gets it every week, in all the time. And I've been in dressing rooms where players locked themselves in toilets and wouldn't commit for the second half. Yeah. And you just have to reassure them that you'll be okay in the second half. And I remember one particular time I said, you'll be okay in the second half because you'll be away over the other side and the manager will be so far away you won't hear him. Yeah. And we just took the centre and it unfortunately went to him and he made a mess of it. And the manager, everybody could hear the manager. So the advice I gave him didn't work, because managers, if they're loud enough, will make their voice heard.
Yeah, well, and that is going to be next week's competition. Let's find out the player Ruffy's talking about. Need to know his name. Anyway, we're going to switch our attention to Rangers. Pedro Caixinha was talking today. Of course, Rangers getting ready to start their campaign on the Sunday at Fir Park against Motherwell. It's a much changed Rangers side, and of course, players that were playing last season under Mark Warburton, a lot of them are getting shipped out. One today again, Rob Kiernan joining Southend United for an undisclosed fee. And the players that are staying, well, as you can see, they're getting ready for the game against Motherwell. It is a team that you can say, without any fear of contradiction, Ruffy, is now Pedro Caixinha's team.
Yes, he certainly worked very fast in his contacts and bringing in people who's probably played with or played against, and used his agents' contacts as well. The proof of being the pudding will be when it starts. There's no doubt about it. The last three results they've had have put everybody on a high after the European disaster. But I think we'll have to wait until Saturday, and then we'll really get an idea of the quality of the players that he's brought in. Because I think the biggest thing is, as Gerry will tell you, is bringing in so many players, you know, and getting them all to mix together. And if he can get a really good start of the season, then they might be on a wee run. Yeah,
well, he raised a few eyebrows last season when he came in and suggested that he had the best squad in Scotland. Some treated that line with a certain amount of scepticism and, of course, wondered whether actually it was fed to him rather than he firmly believed it. But he's repeated it today.
I always think when I'm working in a club, my players are the best, my squad is the best, my club is the best. I need to represent it like that, and I need to spread that feeling from bottom to top and top to bottom. If I don't think like that, representing Rangers today, or all the others that I represent before I arrived to Rangers. I'm a guy just being sitting on my chair, letting the time passing by. I'm not like that, and I want that feeling to spread across as well.
Okay, I'm sure he'll hog a few headlines with that line once again, Robbie. I'm going to cut him some slack and suggest to you that taking from that, he wants to try and get across the message that he's positive. He wants to instill confidence in the squad.
Yeah, he's got a better squad. On paper, it looks a better squad. He has to make, like all footballers, you have to believe that you are the best. That's the right attitude to take. If you want players going out onto the park thinking they are the best, but at the end of the day, it'll be the results that will prove whether the squad is the best.
Yep. Well, at the start of this season, he's got his own team, and he reckons things are on the up.
I can tell you that this is the best moment ever since I arrived.
So how pleased are you then with
that shows the improvement. That shows the improvement. How pleased I am with the boys. That normally the team that is now, or starting playing more now, which we made call the first 11, is only together for this is the third week. So I need to be happy having in 2 weeks and a half the best moment since I arrived. So I need to be happy. The boys need to be happy, and definitely I feel this is the best moment that we are having as a team, as a squad, and as a working group, definitely.
Yeah, so I think you're right, Ruffy. Just 4 or 5 games, doesn't matter how you do it, just keep winning.
Yeah, exactly. And there'll be a fantastic crowd there the weekend and the next week with Rangers. I think the Rangers supporters have now bought into it as a new side. Obviously, they'll have to put the European thing behind, which you have to, and move on. And out with the league that it'll be judged in. You know, everybody's talking about Aberdeen and where they're going to finish, and then you've got Hibs in it as well. So it's going to be a really exciting season.
Yep. Okay. After the break, we're going to give you the answer to the question, and we'll see if these two characters can actually get it. It begins with an M, by the way. Malmo, Ruffy, you got it just before we come out of that break, but it was a close run thing. I think that actually was one of the results that really set most of the Celtic fans, you know, going in an opposite direction to buying into the Ronnie Dyla years.
Yeah, I think in the light of the success in the league and the cup, you know, that Celtic supporters had been weaned on being in the final stages of European football, and I think that result in particular was the one that just sort of nailed it.
Gerry, we mentioned at the top of the programme about the fact that you're not involved for the start of the season, and it's a season which I think, because of you know, Rangers in there, Hibernian's return as well, you know, there's a greater competition, and I don't know if you think about some of the players that have come back into the game and added that wee bit of quality. We're on the watch to see how many Scottish players get a regular game, because that's something you want to see, but it really looks competitive top and bottom, to call it.
Yes, as in, we knew the situation we were in last year, and obviously Dundee have went in and strengthened and brought in quite a lot of players. Hibs have been great, you know, addition to the league. It's been a long. Everybody's missed Hibs. They'd missed Hearts when they were out. And obviously, the Rangers been out, but it's most the league's so competitive now, and I know they're bringing in a lot of foreign players, and it will be interesting to see how many Scottish players, you know, get their chance this year. But I think with Celtic, you know, Celtic's so far ahead, and everybody's got to up their game. You know, they're all wanting this top 6, you know, even the top 4. You know, there is a place in Europe with obviously St Johnstone and Aberdeen getting in this year, and where. Is it cheaper options we're going for? Is it better quality? Well, obviously the managers think it's better quality. They're getting better quality for, you know, for the cheaper price, going abroad and bringing players in, players that are out of contract, players that have been let go. But it certainly, I think it'll be a great league this year.
Yeah, interestingly enough, one of the clubs I'm going to keep my eye on, Ruffy, as well, is Kilmarnock, because he's made a few changes behind the scenes. He's made a number of changes to the playing staff as well. Lee McCulloch certainly impressed Stephen Smith when he was talking about him at the captain's gathering at Hampden Park.
He's changed quite a lot around about the club. small things to where we get changed and things like that, and the training sessions, the gym sessions. I think he's raised the standards throughout the full club. I think the previous manager also, to be fair, did raise the standards, but Lee's took that on to a new level again. So, as I say, he's the permanent manager now, and he's stamping his authority on the club, and as all managers do, they get judged on results, and we're looking forward to the season starting, hopefully get good results.
I like Lee McCulloch. I liked him as a player. I like him as a person as well. I'm interested to see the way his team plays, Ruffy.
Yeah, it certainly will. And I think 2 or 3 years ago, Kilmarnock was all about all the young players they had. You know, obviously a lot of them haven't moved on to the level we thought they would have. They've moved to other clubs, and certainly Lee has went for experience this year. Just got the boy Greer, who I think has got a lot to offer at the back, and I think that was Kilmarnock's failing for me, was defensively. They lose when they lost heavily, and unfortunately for them, it was always at home. So obviously Lee has identified that. He's went for a lot of experience, and I don't think they'll shed as much as they used to.
Yeah. All of the clubs that will be battling to avoid relegation at the bottom half, Martin Canning over the last 24 hours has just put his hands up and said, look, when you think about the spend from Hamilton Accies in comparison to every other club, we are going to be in the mix to try and avoid relegation. You can understand people tipping them. He's not, and the good news is he's not peeved at anybody who tips them for the drop, which Ruffy has for the last 4 or 5 years, Gerry.
Yeah, they've defied the odds over the last few years in staying up. And you know, they've not got a lot of money in Hamilton, but I think this is the first time they've spent money on a player. They brought a player in, and it just shows, you know, they'll need to try and strengthen. And they've kept on hold of the boy Crawford, Ali Crawford. I thought maybe he'd have been picked up somewhere in the last few seasons. They've kept a hold of Ali, and they are a team. They know where they are. They know where they are in the league, and you might get the 3 or 4, the usual ones, round about at the bottom, but you can't fault them for effort. You know what they're doing is, you know, they know where their position is in the league. Everybody's trying to fight for that top 6. And if they're in the bottom 6, the ultimate is to stay up. Yeah. Even the playoffs, you know, Hamilton ended up in the playoffs last year. You know, it could have been any one of 4 or 5 teams. It could have been in the playoffs. But as I say, they keep defying the odds. And just before that, you were saying about Kilmarnock, I think one of the best players I've signed is the boy Irwin, who was at Motherwell, then went to Leeds. I think he could be a big player for Kilmarnock this year. Yeah,
and I'm glad you mentioned there Ali Crawford, because again, Ruffy, and I think there's a difference between people saying there's a person who's a good player. You know, pundits on this programme, you and I discuss players, we see them play, but then managers and assistants have a different kind of chat. They look and they think about a player and think, can he do a specific job? Is he physically up to the challenge? Is he built the way we've built our team? Can he fit in there? I'm amazed that Ali Crawford never got a move, but there must be something that managers see that he's lacking. Craig Sibbald's another one. Talented player, good technically, but there must be something that's not forcing Scottish teams to maybe have a little jump at those two.
Yeah, I mean, the boy Sibbald was down at Luton there. I don't know what happened.
Didn't happen on 2 occasions.
On 2 occasions, but for me, when I see Ali Crawford and I look at the other teams like Kilmarnock, Partick Thistle, Dundee, he looks like a player that could play in these sides quite comfortably. I don't know whether it's money, what they're looking for is out of the reach of the Scottish clubs, whether he can't move on. But I certainly, when I look at some of the play down south, you know, I would think maybe not a championship team, but maybe a league below that and a better level. I just can't. I can't see him being a failure. I just can't. I think he's box to box. He's always run about the 18-yard box. He scores great goals. He links up well. He's a great passer, and he's got enthusiasm. I think he's got as much as what some of the guys we've got up here.
Yeah, you're right. You know, you wonder how he's not been picked up by now. Somebody take a wee gamble on him. Great ability, as Ruffy was saying there. Maybe no people look at him physically. Would he do that? Would he be good? Would he be able to handle the English game? I don't know, but there is division down there. But as it says, he's been handling up here, and I mean the SPLs is as physical as you'll get as well. And he's been week in, week out, season in, season out. He's been probably Hamilton's best player.
Yeah. Again, maybe you've got your thoughts on it. You can give us your thoughts on some special players you're amazed haven't been picked up by some of the bigger clubs in Scotland, or indeed down south at a certain level. At Peter and Ruffy on Twitter, facebook.com/Peter and Ruffy. Don't forget you can join us Saturday. We're back 2 o'clock. We'll have our pundits here in the studio, and we'll have reporters out at the key games across the Premiership and the Championship on STV2, 2 o'clock until 6. We'll take you through all the goals, managers' interviews, updates from the grounds as well. And on a regular basis, Monday through to Friday, we'll be showing you the goals from the weekend's games in the Premiership too. It's all to look forward to this season if you want the straight talking, and of course the entertainment that is Scottish football. I do hope you will spend some of your time with us. We'll look at the Championship in greater detail tomorrow. Just briefly, John Rankin, who's the PFA chairman, was speaking. We're wearing his Queen of the South top, and he reckons that division has still got something to offer.
I think the Championship's flourished the last 3 or 4 years, if I'm being honest, with clubs the stature of Rangers, Hibs and Hearts being in it, and obviously Dundee United still in it. It's a massive club, one of Scotland's biggest clubs. But I think a lot of the sides are evenly matched this year, as you say. I think it's going to be an extremely competitive league. It'll be one that's certainly exciting, and to be honest, with teams like the three that I previously mentioned being in the league, it's certainly raised its profile and it's made it a better league to play in anyway. So at this moment in time, the stature of the Championship is very, very high, and it's a very competitive league to play in.
I think everybody thinks Dundee United are going to win it, but it's going to be a battle to get out of it.
Oh, it definitely always is. I think it's a good league, very good league. You've got Falkirk, Morton had a great run last year. Then they just fell, they fell away a wee bit. But Hoosty certainly get Falkirk playing, and I think they'll be one of the favourites. Dundee United, I know Ray's recruited and brought in a few players. Inverness came back down. They'll be looking to try and get back right back up. And that's the good thing about it. One team drops out of the SPL. One goes up from the first Championship, and one goes down. It's always a quality side, and they're always going to be favourites to come back up. It doesn't work that way.
Yeah, absolutely. It's going to be a good league to keep our eye on. We'll be looking at the Premiership, Championship, League One and League Two. We'll have guests from all 4 divisions. It's a football show which covers all the teams, and we'll also look at the Charity Shield in England between Chelsea and Arsenal tomorrow. We'll speak to Ian McGarry down south in London as our main man there. But from Ruffy, myself and Gerry McCabe, good night.